Godzilla vs. Mothra, The Battle for Earth. It is the highest grossing Heisei title and highest grossing Godzilla film in the series until its dethroning by Shin Gojira. Released and taking place in December 1992, it easily beat imported films like Aladdin and Home Alone 2 in its domestic box office intake, and it was really popular among G fans, especially women. It also received mixed reviews over its wokeness and heavy saturation of messaging at the time, that being the environment and mega corporations. The movie starts 5 months after the events of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Godzilla wakes up when a meteorite strikes the Yokohama Trench, causing typhoons, volcanic eruptions, and massive landslides all over the area. In one mountainside, however, a mysterious discovery is unearthed by the winds and rains, brightly colored and round in shape. Immediately the next morning, a grave robber under the alias Fujita was in a temple in Thailand, where he experiences his own Indiana Jones experiences when he grabs some weird idol. The temple starts to self-destruct and forces him to avoid boulders, outrun a collapsing staircase, and try not to fall in any other traps. He barely makes it out alive, only to be arrested by local authorities. Faced with a long sentence of 15 years, he is offered to guide a Shinra-like corporation called Marutomo to the egg on one of the islands called Infant, else he'd rot in jail. The one who joins him is his ex, who is suing him for child support for their daughter back in Japan. And so, the Indiana Jones elements continue. But before that, Godzilla has gone missing after the meteorite hit, and some strange anomaly awoke in the North Pole. After encountering a deforested slope and running down to a river, they rode down to a waterfall where they make camp for the night. The next morning, they find a cave not too far from the campsite. Inside, there's ruins of an ancient civilization dating back to 12,000 years, including a mural of 2 giant insects fighting for control. Following the light, they find a mysterious object right outside the cave, egg-like in shape. When they hear voices claiming that it belongs to Mothra, the queen of monsters and the one who fought her dark counterpart, Bacha, over 1,200 years ago. It was then revealed that Earth was in a constant state of war at the time over who controlled the planet due to one civilization making machines that drained the planet's energy and resources. Gee, doesn't that ring a bell? In response, Earth aided the natives and summoned Batra, the Dark Mothra, and the 2 monsters fought in the sky, unintentionally killing off their respective tribes to extinction. In the end, Mothra won but was fatally injured and came to rest on her egg, where she knows her legacy will carry on whenever Earth needs her again. However, in December 1992, it's in the hands of none other than Marutomo, Square Enix's inspiration for the Shinra Electric Company, who was developing land near Mount Fuji, much to the dismay of anti-government protesters and environmentalists. He hears of the egg and requests it to be brought to Japan at once to be used as a tourist attraction. Under a clever ruse that the JSDF will protect the egg, they were able to take it to Japan under the watchful guidance of the annoying twin fairies, this time known as the Cosmos, who are the last survivors of the old world. But at the same time, another caterpillar was off the coast of Japan, heading straight forward for unknown reason. Using the Kong vs. Godzilla cliche, the crew towed the egg back to Japan, unaware of Marutomo's true intentions. Nagoya came under attack, but not from Godzilla like that one time in 1964, but from Batra, who is a caterpillar that just arrived from the sea and is bent on destroying the human race through any means possible. Nagoya Tower and Castle were ruined, the beach where Godzilla washed ashore was decimated, and the ways out of the city were all but blocked off by his burrowing. At the same time, Godzilla was seen off the coast of the Philippines, heading straight for the freighter that carried the Mothra's egg. Frightened, they try to release the egg before he arrives and destroys it, and them as well, similar to Kong vs. Godzilla in 1962. However, the representative tries to stop Fujita from releasing it, but after a little bit of a fist fight, if you can call it one, he was unable to stop him from pulling the switch to release it. But just as Kong emerged unscathed from the waters, a baby larva hatched and jumped into the water just before Godzilla blew it up. A brief battle ensues where the caterpillar just latches onto Godzilla's tail, calling back to 1964, and he just tries slamming her off again and again, and she ends up sucking on his chest instead. She then sprays silk as a method to blind him, but it fails, and he throws her around and shoots her with his atomic breath, but misses. Batra soon realizes that both arch-nemesis and rival are in the area and proceeds towards them to kill them. However, the caterpillar was only interested in finding her fairies and leaving, and Batra engages in a lengthy battle with Godzilla, where his reckless horn eye beams destroy the container with the egg and hit Godzilla instead. In response, Godzilla fights Batra, allowing Mothra to escape back to Infant Island. Way down below the ocean. God never gets old. Anyway, Godzilla and Batra are still going at it, where a funny clip shows Godzilla slamming Batra around, using what he learned against King Ghidorah only 5 months prior. Batra tries fighting back with his horn eye beams and tackling, but the darkness of the sea partially blinds him and he misses some shots. Godzilla starts slamming Batra around again and again to the point where the Philippine and Eurasian plates give way, causing the volcanic fissure to open up and swallow him whole, presumably burning him to death. After all that happened, the trio decided to go to the Philippines, where the Marutomo representative drinks himself stupid for his utter failure to present the egg to his boss, and the divorced couple reminiscing of earlier days when they were adventurers themselves without a care in the world. But it all changed when she gave birth to their daughter in Fujita. Fearing he would be stuck his entire life, ran out on them and still hasn't looked back since. And he's still running. As they return from Tokyo from Manila, he ran out on them to find the cosmos, which were stolen by their representative, Ando. He presents them to Marutomo, who gladly accepts him over his failure to bring the egg back to Japan. And he decides to treat them lavishly, as he had chosen for them that they will work for him. However, unknown to anyone, the cosmos sing the ever-famous Mothra song to get the caterpillar to rescue them from capture. The caterpillar responds and heads to Japan straight away, barreling through all roadblocks that got in her path. But then things get complicated. Marutomo is furious to find out the cosmos was stolen, and it's revealed that Fujita stole him back and is trying to sell him for $1 million. Ikki Sagusa tracks him down to the hotel where he was staying at, and his ex and daughter confront him, and he's slapped by her over his financial gain. And he confesses that he wanted to start anew with the money, which she questions if it was worth it to do it alone, implying she felt lonely all this time. After some convincing from his daughter, he then sends them away and proceeds to release the cosmos to tell the caterpillar to turn back, as they were safe. However, on her way back, the caterpillar is mortally injured in the back after the military fires on her. Seeing that she will no longer live in this form, the caterpillar heads to the dive building and destroys it just like Godzilla did back in 1954, and proceeds to spray a large silk chrysalis for her to rest in. Little do they realize, it's not just her that's evolving. 2 others are also going through their own versions of metamorphosis. First off, Godzilla emerges from his own chrysalis, if you call it that way. Mount Fuji explodes and Godzilla crawls out of it, revealing that he swam through miles of magma just to get to Japan. The magma made him more durable and powerful, allowing him to rampage through the plains through the Tanazawa Mountains with ease. Shortly afterwards, the other creature has his own metamorphosis, as Batra, shown to be alive and well, is seen swimming in the North Sea, until he had enough and instantly transformed into his true form, a dark moth with a slightly more authentic roar in his larval form. During these 2 transformations, a butterfly emerges from the dive building. Mothra. The queen has arrived to stop her king and arch-rival from destroying themselves and the world. All 3 monsters sense each other and proceed to head straight for Tokyo. Godzilla and Mothra are being rerouted to our Journey into Japan Traveler's Guide spot, Yokohama. Yokohama is the second most populous city in Japan after Tokyo, and is the city most known for its weird architecture and entertainment options. Recently, it gained infamy for a certain cruise ship docked in its port, becoming a breeding ground for current world event. Contrary to popular claims, Yokohama is not in Tokyo itself or in the Kanto area, but rather it's in Kanagawa Prefecture and is the seat of the Kanagawa area. With a population of 2 million people compared to Tokyo's 20 million, it has its origins as a small fishing village in the Edo period, becoming the dominant port where goods would enter the country after overtaking Osaka, Kobe, Nagoya, and even Tokyo after its forced opening in 1859. It has the largest Chinatown in Japan and in North-Southeast Asia, and possibly the world. It would become famous the world over by way of Jules Verne in his novel Around the World in 80 Days, which is ironic because he never visited the place once in his life. There are tons of things to do in this city, especially in the Minato Midai 21 district. The Ferris wheel, the Yokohama Landmark Tower, and that weird moon-shaped building overlooking the bay are excellent tourist destinations. The Ferris wheels is inside of Cosmo World, which is where the final showdown between the three monsters take place in this movie. It's actually a radical theme park. It's like Knott's Berry Farm and SeaWorld mixed together, only smaller due to the land size. The Yokohama Landmark Tower has an observatory where you can take things in from on high at 69. Nice. And a full 360-degree view cannot deny. The Bay Bridge is one of the longest suspension bridges in Japan, and you can free fall on it from the observation deck 180 feet above sea level. Yamashita Park is right by the harbor if you just want to relax and unwind after a long day of touring around the city. Heck, there's even a cup noodles museum dedicated to all things ramen and instant noodles. So all you Naruto fans and college students who survived years on them can go there to pay your respects to the one thing that kept you alive for some time. And yes, there is an actual Gundam robot in Yokohama Bay, as you probably guessed after hearing the news from Hero Hey or some of those other weebs on YouTube. It is actually open to the public as a permanent tourist attraction compared to claims that it was temporary. You can also get your hands on some of the silk that made Yokohama's presence known to the world in the 1800s. ElGoji and I are active baseball fans, and we were planning on visiting the Yokohama Stadium for a baseball game with the Olympic teams between USA and some other country. Too bad this thing happened. Had this blown over, we would also have gotten as close as we can to, you know. But alas, it was not to be. Anyway, back to our intended programming. Mothra also makes her way to Yokohama via Cosmo World, and it's a really awesome looking clip right there. However, at the same time, Batra was able to intercept Mothra via the Bay Bridge, and through a rather paltry show of special effects, especially background immersion, the two fight. This version of Mothra is the one I actually like the best, because she also has a special ability to call her own, aside from hurricane winds and poison scales. She now shoots antenna beams from pretty obvious. And not only that, she can also unleash an uncanny ability called a 3D mirror where she traps her opponent and anything it attempts to do is reflected back at its user with double the damage. This proves useful against Batra for a while before he caught on and outsmarted her by flinging her towards the moon-shaped building. However, she was able to escape and leaves Batra in a wild goose chase, causing him to destroy the Bay Bridge and some buildings. However, he shoots her down and she falls on top of Cosmo World next to the Ferris wheel, but just before he could shoot her dead, an atomic beam shot at his face. Godzilla. Having been rerouted to Yokohama after a brief skirmish with some marching mazers, he is determined to finish his battle with Batra, also Mothra's main goal. However, Batra was able to fling him into the Landmark Tower, delaying its opening by a couple years. Believing both of his enemies to be dead, Batra proceeds to carry their corpses and line them up so he can execute them, but Godzilla got the better of him and was able to grab him, beat him, and send him flying towards the pier, and shooting him with his atomic breath for good measure. Seeing her rival brutally beat up, Mothra then engages Godzilla on her own for a bit, knocking him back while she tries to talk to Batra. She offers to heal him and join forces to take down Godzilla, who is a bigger threat to them both. If either of them die, or both do, he would proceed to blow Yokohama to space bits through another rampage just as Mothra is about to heal Batra. Godzilla emerges free from the rubble and attempts to push the Ferris wheel on top of Mothra, but it was intercepted by Batra, who accepted her offer and proceeded to throw the Ferris wheel onto Godzilla, knocking him out for a bit. Temporary allies, the two insects mixed their powers together to get Godzilla at a disadvantage, with Mothra using her 3D mirror and Batra using his wings to keep him at bay, and both beams and lightning discharge on Godzilla. He becomes too weak to keep fighting, and he falls into the water. Together, Batra and Mothra attempt to lift Godzilla up and away from the city, as he ends up biting Batra's throat and is stained with his yellow blood. In response, he shoots him point blank with his atomic breath, killing him instantly. Mothra, unable to hold on any longer, drops the two monsters into the ocean and places a seal that hopefully keeps Godzilla at bay, at least for now. Afterwards, she reunites with the Cosmos and Fujita at the airport, where it's revealed that she's leaving Earth to try to stop a meteorite that would hit it in 1999. It was supposed to be Batra's job to take care of it, but he died in a battle against Godzilla. So in his stead, Mothra would try to beat it 4 years early for that. And a head start too, because Batra was going to wake up in 1995 to prepare to stop the meteor by 1996. Fujita's daughter, Ando, the environmental minister, and the cabinet secretary catch up to him, and together they wave goodbye to the Cosmos and Mothra, who warns them not to take lightly her sacrifice. The two groups then go their separate ways. One heads back to his family, the others decide to introduce environmental acts, and the three aliens depart to the unknown of space for one last mission. Much like its predecessor, the film had some complicated development history. For starters, the film wasn't even supposed to be made at all. It was meant to be a sequel to the previous one, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, titled The Return of King Ghidorah. But due to the box office failure that it was scrapped and reworked into Godzilla vs. Gigamoth, where Godzilla and Mothra would team up and defeat their radioactive relative named Gigamoth, a beta version of Batra that was creepy as it attempted to kill Mothra and Godzilla through human possession. In the end, Mothra and Godzilla would kill themselves trying to stop the monster, which was successful. It ended up being scrapped, with Gigamoth being reworked into Batra. On a side note, this year marks the 60th anniversary of Mothra's first appearance back in 1961. And who would have thought that a cute-looking moth would become the most famous monster that's not called Godzilla in all of Japan, especially among women. They probably wouldn't have believed it. This movie has numerous similarities and differences to its earlier version, Mothra vs. Godzilla. Just like in the Showa era, Mothra appears in the fourth Godzilla film in its respective timeline. Akira Ifukube composed the music for both films. Tomoyuki Tanaka would executive produce them both, and both would share the same plot points like the intro, the greedy businessman, Godzilla's defeat in the hands of Mothra, and the uses of the same music, as well as Akira Takarada. Of course, they also differ, such as environmentalist themes in the latter, Batra, the twin caterpillars in the original, and a different setting. The original takes place in Nagoya during the 1964 Olympics in springtime, while the remake takes place in December 1992 in the middle of winter in Yokohama. The twin fairies were renamed the Cosmos, and unlike the show era, they will not be portrayed by twins in real life. As different women would portray them, they would just customize their looks to look identical. After Kazuki Omori's controversial handling of the previous film, Toho hired Takao Okawara, who would direct the remainder of the Heisei films after seeing results with this one. New cast members would become mainstays, namely Takehiro Murata, Keiko Iwamura, Saika Osawa, and Saburo Shinoda, as they will make cameos and appearances in later films. It's also notably Akira Takarada's and Kenji Sahara's only appearances in the Heisei era as the environmental minister and seismologist, respectively. The woman who acted in Godzilla vs. Biollante makes a cameo at the airport scene. The movie released on December 12, 1992 to great fanfare and reception. It beat the likes of Aladdin and Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, which were released at the same time, and it came close to topping Jurassic Park in box office totals in Japan, despite being released only half a year apart. It is the highest grossing film in the Godzilla series until Shin Godzilla in 2016. Overall, for all you Mothra fans wanting to cash in on her 60th anniversary celebration, this is a film not to be missed, especially because of this film It's the reason why she was crowned as Queen of the Monsters in contrast to Godzilla's kingly crown. She was that popular that Toho even got a trilogy of films for her to star in the mid-late 90s alongside King Ghidorah, making those two the only monsters to ever get a solo film-sized franchise. If you don't mind a great oversaturation of messages, it's a great film to watch, especially during a starry night in the summer or on a Christmas evening when it's snowing. The film that cemented a queen, the film that solidified a king, and things are about to peak again.